السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. Okay, so continuing with our discussion yesterday, to those of you who were, tuned in, my apologies about the internet, the Periscope kind of went out. For those of you who are on Facebook Live, it kept going in and out. My apologies about that. So I'm just going to kind of quickly reiterate what we discussed yesterday. And then I'm going to, as I usually do, give some solutions to help out with that problem. So we're talking about the ideal Muslimah, and we're talking about the concept of obedience. And, Muslim men in particular, requesting of their women or demanding of their women, strict obedience and adherence to their every command. And we kind of, redefine what obedience is from an Islamic perspective, which is not necessarily the same obedience that a woman gives to Allah and His Messenger. What the woman gives to Allah and His Messenger is unconditional obedience. What a woman gives to her husband is not unconditional obedience. It is conditional obedience, which is basically, a willfulness, a willingness to comply, and a conscious and willfulness, ability or desire to comply. That is basically what is meant by obedience to the husband, because it is not the same type of unconditional obedience the woman gives to Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So it can't possibly be considered obedience. It is a willfulness, and it is a conscious, desire to comply, right? Because a woman still has a right to say, to use her mind, to use her intellect, to say whether or not she wants to comply with that. And as I said before, that, this willful compliance, this conscious and willful compliance, when a man requests something of his wife, that before she responds to that, it is filtered through a number of processes. Number one, she's looking at his role and his position in the marriage. Does he even deserve for me to, respond to his request in this manner? Some men are just really not deserving. Some men, go out and they do things in a haram manner, do things in a wrong fashion, and then they double back and want to do it the right way and expect the woman to just completely comply. And it doesn't work like that. You forfeited your opportunity for your wife to be completely adherent, and obedient to your command because you didn't go about it right the first time. And now because you want to go about it no, it doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. What it forces us to do as men is to be men. We like to throw around men are the protectors and maintainers of the women, but you're not protecting and maintaining, dude. You're not protecting and you're not maintaining. As a matter of fact, many of us as men, we make our wives more vulnerable. Emotionally, they're vulnerable. They're vulnerable to all types of things because of the things that we do to them. So instead, when we protect and maintain our women, we're protecting them from us too. You understand that, brother? Protecting your wife and maintaining her, protecting her not just from others, but protecting her from your own issues too. Your own sicknesses, your own ills, your own diseases. And due to those things, we make our women more vulnerable, right? We make them vulnerable because we're not protecting them from us either. So they're exposed to the whole world due to the things that they have to deal with being in the marriage with us. So she's looking at, number one, recognition of his role in the marriage and the relationship. Number two, she's the willingness to cooperate. Does she even want to do it? You act like the woman doesn't have a say-so. As the example I gave yesterday, a man goes out and he commits, and these are like the worst case scenarios, but these are real case scenarios. Man goes out and he commits, adultery with another woman, and then he doubles back and wants to have sexual relations with his wife, even though she knows what he did. or went and take a second wife without informing his, current wife. And then, he comes home and she's supposed to be completely obedient to his request to have sex. And then we throw all types of Islamic texts around, loosely and callously. The angel's going to curse you. So the angels are going to curse your wife because she refuses to have sex with you, unprotected sex with you, because you went out and had unprotected sex with another woman that you didn't do any STD test, no AIDS test, no nothing, no medical examination, no nothing. You know nothing about this woman medically. Yet you put your private inside of her, and then you come home to your wife and want to do the same exact thing. She has every right to deny you. She has every right. And don't ask for dalil. You don't need dalil, because the fact of the matter is that you want dalil for your wife refusing you sex, but you don't need dalil for you going out and committing adultery. You don't need dalil for that. What's the dalil that is permissible for you to go out and have sexual relations with a woman that is not your wife? What is the dalil? What is the evidence that it is permissible for you to go out and marry a woman, not get any medical examination, not get any STD tests, not tell your wife, not tell your children? What is the Islamic dalil for that? And we have to stop doing that, man. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, La darar wa la dirar. There is no harming or reciprocation of harm. Meaning, if you contracted something from someone, it is not permissible for you to come home to your wife and give it to her. That's your dalil for all you dalil-seeking, evidence-seeking brothers. You want dalil? That's your dalil. La darar wa la dirar. There's no harming or reciprocation of harm. That means that if a woman knows she has something, it is not permissible for her to have unprotected sex with a married man, right? So that he turns around and gives that disease to somebody else. But we do it all day long because we're so selfish. We want what we want. We don't care who we have to hurt in pursuit of our own selfish happiness. We want what we want when we want it, and we don't care who we have to hurt to get it. And that's how you know it's not a healthy, interaction, a healthy, pursuit of happiness. Because if you got to reach your happiness at the expense of making somebody else miserable, can you really say that it's happiness that you're seeking? It can't possibly be happy. It can't possibly be happiness. Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, on his deathbed, he said, La li wa la alay arju, and la yakunu li wa la alayya. Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, at the end of my life, I want to leave this world not having owed anybody anything and not having anybody owe me anything. Even Stephen, I don't want to leave this world having owed anybody anything or anybody owing me anything. You understand? I don't have any emotional debts. I don't have any debts. I don't owe anybody anything, meaning I did not infringe on anybody else's haq. I didn't infringe on anybody else's right in pursuit of my own right. And I didn't allow anybody to do that to me. And if they did do it to me, I forgave them. I forgave them before, I left this world. So I leave this world not having owed anybody anything, nobody owing me anything. You understand? And you can pursue your happiness, but your pursuit of happiness should not be at the expense of somebody else's misery, because then it's not true happiness. So the woman is filtering your requests as a man through, number one, looking at your position as a man in a relationship. Number two, her willingness to comply, right? For the greater good of the marriage, for the cohesion and greater good of the marriage. Number three, the request having some root in Islam. Is what you're asking your wife, brother, is that something that has some type of root or connection to the religion? Because if it's personal, she damn sure don't gotta obey you. She doesn't have to listen to you. That's personal. But if it's something that is connected or rooted to the religion, okay, then it's considered. And then the third thing is that it doesn't involve any disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet ﷺ said, La ta'ata li makhlukin fi ma'siyat al-khaliq, that there is no obedience to the creation and disobedience to the creator. You cannot obey the creation if obedience to the creation involves disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No. So with all of these conditions, can we absolutely emphatically say that what is required of the woman is obedience? Can we actually use that term? No. What is requested of the woman is a conscious and willfulness to comply, to compliance, cooperation. As Allah says in the Quran, وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. Cooperate with one another upon righteousness and piety, and do not cooperate with one another upon sin and disobedience. That is what is requested of the woman. And I mentioned about the Sahabiyat and how their cultural, nuances dictated that some women were more docile and some women were more aggressive. And if we look at our environment as African Americans, we can see why African American women are assertive. They have to be. They have to be. You got to consider, the environment that we live in. So the American culture is not built upon the expectation of any woman from any culture to be docile and less assertive than men. Rather, women are in competition with men in just about everything, from sports to entertainment to employment, which tends to trickle over into romantic relationships, sexual relationships. So when when Muslim men demand of their women to be less assertive and docile, we have to ask ourselves, where is this coming from? Because it's not coming from Islam. Islam doesn't request that the woman be more docile. That's not what Islam is requesting of women. Islam is not requesting of the women to be docile. There are general rules in the Quran, but then those rules apply differently to one society and the next. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as I said before, we look at the women of the Sahaba. Were they these docile women that we are superimposing on our women to become? Absolutely not. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, out of all of his wives, the 38 years that he was from his first marriage to Khadijah to the time that he died was a 38-year period, and he only ever divorced one woman, and that was Hafsa, the daughter of Umar bin Khattab radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he concluded that the only reason the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam divorced Hafsa was because she was like her father. Very assertive, very straightforward at times, very unyielding at times, right? Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, he said that I didn't see that the Prophet divorced Hafsa except that her character is just like her father's. She was just more, just more assertive. And I mean, the point of and the fact of the matter is that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam remarried her. Angel Jibreel came to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and commanded him, by command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to take Hafsa back because she was sawama kawama. She fasted all day and she prayed all night. So although, she was, very assertive, there was a level of religiosity there that was to be valued. In line with the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, لا يفرق مؤمن مؤمنة إذا كره منها خلقا ورضي منها آخر, that no Muslim male should hate a Muslim female, that if you, or believing male should hate a believing female, that if you dislike one thing about her, then look again and you can find something that overshadows that thing that you dislike from the things that you do like. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam took Hafsa back. But the point that I'm making is that he didn't change her character. Yes, it was challenging at times, but Hafsa's character was necessary, and that's who she was. That was her personality. So the Prophet ﷺ didn't try to change this woman. We got men in relationships with Muslim women trying to change them from day one, from the very beginning. Oh, in the Quran it says that you shouldn't do this. Oh, sister, you shouldn't do this. And then it just starts one thing after another, one thing after another, one thing after another, until the woman either says, all right, I see what you're trying to do to me. I'm sorry, this ain't going to work for me. I'm out. Or she's so desperate to stay in a relationship under the guise of, I'm just going to be patient and work it out. There's no being patient with a narcissist. There's no being patient with somebody who does not love you for who you are. He loves you for who you have the potential to be in his mind. He does not love you for who you are. You understand? And subhanAllah, we're patient with some of the most absurd things. And we are impatient with the things that we actually should be patient with. You understand? We are patient with things that common sense should dictate we shouldn't be patient with. And, and we're impatient with things that our deen demands us to be patient with. The total opposite. Here again, the miseducation of the Muslim Negro, right? Carter G. Woodson wrote the book, The Miseducation of the Negro. We have a miseducation of the Muslim Negro. Here again, because we won't take the time out to learn our religion. We won't take the time out to learn our religion. Something Abdul Malik said, Brother Abdul Malik said from New York, was listening to a lecture that he gave, some time ago, and he said, ignorance is slavery. The more ignorant you are, the more susceptible you are to becoming somebody's slave. Facts all day long, man. That was powerful. The more ignorant you are, the more susceptible you are to being somebody's slave. That's just the way that it works. There was another hadith where the Prophet ﷺ was arguing with Aisha, or he wasn't arguing with her, but Aisha was raising her voice over the voice of the Prophet ﷺ. And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, her father, happened to be walking by and heard Aisha raising her voice over the Prophet ﷺ. Abu Bakr walked in and he walked over to Aisha to grab her, and the Prophet jumped in front of Abu Bakr. And he's like, are you raising your voice over the voice of the Prophet ﷺ? Does that show you that women were docile? I just gave you 3 examples. Does that show you that women were docile? Does that show you that women were, forced to fit into this cookie cut mold of, being docile? No, absolutely not. They were allowed to have, their own personalities. The Prophet ﷺ didn't, Aisha had a moment. She had several moments throughout his life, several moments where she talked back to him and she said things back to him. On this particular occasion, she was raising her voice at the Prophet ﷺ, shouting at her husband. Does that show you that she was being docile? This image that we try to superimpose on our women? Or does that show you that she was a woman and the Prophet ﷺ didn't try to change her? Even in that very moment, there was times Aisha, said something slick to the Prophet ﷺ, said something inappropriate. He smiled and walked away because that was the only way to remedy the situation in that moment. The Prophet wasn't the type to go back and forth. That wasn't his character. That wasn't his character, to try to win the argument, right? To try to be right. He walked in on his daughter, Fatima and Ali, and he asked them, you guys don't get up for tahajjud? You guys don't get up at night and pray? And Ali radiallahu anhu, he said, our souls, anfusana biyadillah, that our souls are in the hands of Allah. In sha'a yuqimuna, if Allah wills, he'll get us up for tahajjud. And if Allah wills, then he won't. And the Prophet ﷺ got up, walked away, shaking his head, and he said, reciting an ayah from the Quran, he said, وَكَانَ الْإِنسَانُ أَكْثَرَ شَيْءٍ جَدَلًا. And the human being is the most argumentative of creatures. The Prophet didn't go back and forth with him. The Prophet didn't say, how are you using the qadr to justify or to overshadow, human responsibility? He didn't argue that point. He got up and realized that, this guy just, want to prove his point. But the Prophet ﷺ wasn't the type to go back and forth with people. That wasn't his demeanor. That wasn't his character, whether in the construct of marriage or outside the construct of marriage. That wasn't his demeanor. He allowed people to be who they were. He directed people the way that they needed to be directed, but at the same token, allowing people to be who they are, loving them for who they are, loving you from where you are. That's love. I'm not trying to change you. I love you from where you are, even though there are things about you that I dislike. Overall, I love you. And I'm not going to try, I married you because you are who you are. That is what attracted me to you. Why would I go into a marriage with you and then immediately try to change you? Then that means that it wasn't based on love. That means that I don't love you for who you are. I love you for who I want you to be. Big difference between the two. Difference between you loving somebody for who they are, and that doesn't mean that you don't advise. That doesn't mean that you don't redirect. direct at certain points, because you want good for the person. But that is you redirecting or giving advice is not you trying to change the person. That's you giving them a better suggestion of how to be better, to be a better version of themselves. You understand? You giving advice to someone, or you redirecting someone, or you instructing someone with something from Islam is not you trying to change who they are. That is you suggesting how they can become a better version of themselves. You understand? I don't want you to be other than yourself. I want you to be exactly who you are, but I want you to be the best version of who you are. Big difference between the two. All right? So you can see that women had some degree of autonomy, and were not completely subordinate to the point that they were given like this subclass status within the institution of marriage like you see happening today. Women were allowed to be who they were. Whereas today, women are not allowed to be who they are. And more particular, African American women. We got to change everything about them. The other thing that we have to understand as men is that women will naturally synchronize. Women will naturally synchronize with a man on whatever level his assertiveness or his dominance dictates. If a man comes into the life of a woman, even if she's assertive, and he comes in and his assertiveness is equally yoked or even more intense than her assertiveness, she's going to find her place wherever that place is. Women are not usually competitive. That is not the nature of women to be competitive. Women are usually strong in who they are and their personalities and their identities, which are developed from as early as 7 years old. Personality of the human being is usually developed. The identity is usually developed by at age 7. So they're pretty strong in who they are. Men, we go through this metamorphosis once we hit teenage years. We go through these different phases of who we want to be and these different personality phases and changes that we go until we get to about 20, 21, and then we're kind of stable in who we are at that point. Women's development is a lot quicker than that. All right. So women will usually synchronize with a man on whatever level his assertiveness or dominance dictates. Some women have been conditioned by their circumstances to be more dominant and assertive, which oftentimes translates into being aggressive. And this is more for African American women. That's the double standard. Women from other cultures, when they are like go-getters and they're very independent and outgoing, they're assertive. They're asserting, their independence. When African American women do it, they're aggressive, angry. Black women, man eaters. They have no respect for men. Like, no, she's doing the same thing that another woman from another culture is doing. It's just that when it comes to black women, we just have a different outlook on them. They're aggressive. When a brother marries a sister from a different culture and she wants to go to college and she wants to get a job, we're right there along, championing, her every endeavor. But the African American woman wants to do that. Oh, she's trying to make more than me. She's in competition with me. She's trying to overshadow me. She's trying to outshine me. And we're going to stop your shine because we're going to tell you, no, it's haram for you to go to college. No, it's haram. I don't want you working around non-Muslim men. You understand? We'll use any loophole in the religion to stifle you because your success equals my failure. But let another woman from another culture do it, and it's like, I'm there. I'm your biggest champion. I'm your biggest champion. Because, if something happened to me, I want you to be able to take care of my kids. Meanwhile, the African American woman, something happened to you, she got to figure it out. You don't leave behind no inheritance. You don't give a damn about what happens to her after you gone. She can rely on Allah. Put your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sister, right? Meanwhile, sister from another culture, you want to make sure she's straight when you die. So you're going to champion her going to college. You're going to champion her, entrepreneurial endeavors, whatever. See how the double standard, see how that works? All day long, all day facts. For example, if a woman grew up amongst dominant women, right? So brothers, before you marry a woman, go into her family history. Find out where she came from, man. Stop marrying these women and you have absolutely no family background history on this particular person. And the same thing goes for women. But for men, as I'm talking to the men here, before you marry a woman, go do her history. Find out what type of household she was raised in, because that is going to tell you a lot about her. It doesn't matter that she's Muslim and she was raised as a non-Muslim. That means absolutely nothing. Those character traits that she, incorporated into her personality, right? And incorporated into her character still carry on with her even into Islam. That's who she is. That's how she developed her personality. That's not going to change simply because she took Shahada and she's supposed to adopt, our understanding of obedience. See, what we think is that I don't care how you were raised as a non-Muslim, once you convert to Islam as a woman, you should automatically know your place. You should automatically know what is expected of you and what is required of you in terms of your obedience to your husband and fall in line. And unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. For many women, it doesn't work like that. Because they don't have the same understanding of obedience that you do. All right. So some women grew up in, a female dominated household, or she might have grown up in a single parent household where the primary authority in the home was the woman. She grew up amongst docile men. Maybe she had brothers, two of them are gay, 3 of them are gay. One of them is in jail. Don't really know what direction he's going. But she didn't grow up in a home where she saw sturdy men. She didn't grow up in a home where she saw men, working and taking care of their families and doing manly things, so much so that she has an image of, strong men. She doesn't even understand. She doesn't even know what a strong man is. She doesn't even know what that means. That doesn't resonate with her. So we come into the marriage, strong man, this male bravado. I got this, you don't have to work. And she's looking at you like, I don't have to work. 2 of my brothers are gay. 1 of them is in jail. My father, was in and out of our lives. I've never seen a strong man in my life. I don't even know what that looks like. So you got to prove that to me, brother. You got to prove that to me. I don't even know what that looks like. We have 2 totally different reference points. And so, it would behoove, brothers to, do their research on the woman that they are about to marry, to understand what you're getting into. All right. Or she might have been in past relationships with men who were docile, or, men who left her and stuck her with everything. I mean, so these are her reference points. Women have to understand, though, as I said yesterday, that being dominant in a relationship subtracts from the energy that you could be using elsewhere. All right. You could be using in other areas of your life. Dominance, being the dominant person. Some women come in and regardless, you see the man works, you see he takes care of his family, you see he does everything he's supposed to do, but you're still going to overpower him. You're still going to show him that you don't need him. I make my own money. I don't need you. I can do this all by myself. And some women will go out on a limb to prove to their husbands that I don't need you. How are you proving to your husband you don't need him? I don't know. Why get married? Why did you even get married? Oh, I get it. You did need him. Right. You did need him. Even if it was just for halal sex, you still needed him. Even if it was just for the baby, for the children, you still needed him. But everything else, you don't need him. So you have some women in their relationships who will bend over backwards, who will go to the end of the world to prove to the man that I don't need you. You don't ask him for anything. Men, one of the things that help us to thrive in a relationship is to know that our wives do need us. That is what, some of us, our love language is in service. The Prophet ﷺ used to service his wife, Aisha radiallahu anha, was asked, what was the behavior of the Prophet ﷺ in his home? And Aisha responded, she said, Kana fi mihnati ahlihi. He was in the service of his family. He was in the service. Kana fi mihnati ahlihi, khidmati ahlihi. He was in the service of his family. He used to sew his own sandals, go out to the, the goat, milk his own, get his own milk, right? sew his own sandals on his straps, sew his own clothes, fix the sandals on his the straps on his sandals. This was in the service of his family. Some men, their love language is being in the service of their family. And we thrive in marriages knowing that the women that we are married to, they need us. But when you got a woman in a marriage who's constantly trying to prove to her man that she doesn't need him, it's almost like it's counterproductive to the marriage. It's counterproductive. So you have to understand, as a woman, this dominant energy that you are bringing with you into these relationships, you could be using that energy in other areas of your lives. Being dominant in a relationship requires you to be more responsible, right? You're putting unnecessary, responsibilities on your shoulders. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not task you with proving to your spouse that you are the most perfect of the two in a relationship. That's not your job to prove that. Let what you do in your relationship, let that prove that. I'm not here to prove to you that I'm a better husband to you than you are a wife to me, or vice versa. You are, a better wife to him than he is a husband to you. I love harder. So what? It's not that you love harder. It's just that your love is manifested, or you are able to articulate your love in a way different than your spouse. So what? You love harder. Your reward for that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But don't throw that out there to make your spouse feel less than. Because you're not doing it for the spouse. You're doing it for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Well, I definitely love harder in a relationship. I definitely go harder in a relationship. Okay, kudos. Kudos to you. You go harder. But by stating that, you could actually be, forfeiting your reward from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So dominance requires you to be the more responsible person, to initiate things, right? To be the support for everyone else but yourself, right? You take the larger part of the, role of caretaker for the children. You take responsibility for the failures of other people. Even when things go wrong, you are responsible to figure them out. And then turn around and blame the man for not being more assertive, right? Then have the audacity to turn around and blame the man for not being more assertive. And you're like, well, you do everything. I don't need to be assertive. I don't need to assert myself when you got it. You got it all figured out. You got it all figured out. Your son, your daughter get fired from their job. You're taking it upon yourself to go up to the job to find out, or whatever the case may be. You're going to figure it out. It's your fault because, you didn't get him up on time, or you didn't get her up on time. You take responsibility for other people's failures. That is all that's why they say white supremacy is a burden. White supremacy is a burden. Some Caucasians, some white people who believe that they are superior to every other race, walking around believing that you are superior to others is a burden, because you got to constantly be perfect. You got to constantly paint this picture of yourself that you are better and you are perfect, more so than everybody else. That is a burden, because you won't allow yourself to just sit, in a space where you're just human. You can't. Right? You ever live in a neighborhood where, these, some Caucasian families, upper class, middle class families are constantly in competition with one another to prove that they are, the more elite of the community than everybody else. This person go get a pool, a out of the ground pool, one of them round ones. Then the next door neighbor got to go get an in-ground pool. Right? And then this person has to have the hottest cookout, and that person has to, and I mean, it's like, that's a burden. You can come over and we ain't got to have a pool. We ain't got to have an elaborate pool. We can sit down and play cards. We can eat, kids can run in the backyard and play, and we good. I don't have to burden myself by going out on a limb to prove that, my experience is the experience. That's a burden. And this is why white supremacy is a burden. You gotta have the biggest house. Your children gotta go to the most prestigious school, even though you can't afford it. You die owing so many people. I mean, that's a horrible way to leave this world. You owe the bank $350,000. You owe this person. You owe this family member. You owe that person. All because of an image that you portrayed. Nobody else gave a damn about. It was totally all in your head. It was all in your head. You had to paint this image of yourself to the world that you were perfect. And it goes on in marriages just the same. So being the more dominant person, it requires you to be more responsible. It requires you to initiate things. It requires you to do everything. Sometimes to just sit back and say, my husband got that. Put a battery in his back. Honey, where we going this weekend? I don't know. Where you want to go? I don't know. Surprise us. You don't have to initiate. Surprise us. I'll send you a couple of links to some places because sometimes we can be lazy as men. I don't really know where to look. I don't know, what's going on. Okay, cool. I'll send you a couple of links to some places. You select whichever one you want and we can go. Position your husband to take the more leadership role in the marriage by you stepping down out of that role and allowing him to take that role. You understand? So, and then the last thing I wanted to talk about with the brothers, man, what we got to stop doing is we got to stop gaslighting our women. Gaslighting is the concept of making a person question their own reasoning, question their own, their own logic, questioning their own mentality. It's the greatest trick that couples play on one another. And men, we use Islam to gaslight our women. I'll give you an example. So you want to take a second wife, right? And you go about it the wrong way. You're communicating with women on the phone. You're communicating with women, sliding in their DMs to the end of it. When your wife catches you, you say, well, I'm going to marry the sister. How else am I supposed to communicate with her? Your wife says, well, she has a wali. Well, she don't have a wali. She's a new convert to Islam. And I know this conversation is very heavy because some of you sitting here listening right now, this is your situation as we speak. As we speak. The conversation plays out just like this. She catches you because men, we sloppy. Not only are we sloppy, we don't realize that when you've been married to a woman long enough or you've been in the space with a woman long enough, she can read your energy. She don't have to see anything. She don't have to catch you in the act with anything. She can feel your energy. Your energy is off. Your energy is different. Because when you are in a relationship with someone, those endorphins kick in, right? All of those drugs begin to, permeate your body. And you are giving off a different energy. God forbid, Allah forbid that you are in the same space with the woman. And then now you're bringing that energy into your home. Your wife can pick up on that energy immediately. She knows that you've been with somebody else. She knows that you've been seeing somebody else because your energy has shifted. See, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't create us with two hearts. So our energy can only focus on one thing at a time. Even as a man in polygyny, men in polygyny know your wife can tell when you've just been intimate with your other wife. She can tell. The energy is different. You walk through the door with a different type of energy. And women pick up on that very quickly. So you communicating with this woman online, on the phone, whatever the case may be. Your wife finds out about it. And your wife questions you about it. How are you communicating with this woman without a wali? You say, well, here's the gaslighting. You always deflect. You put it off on her. Make her question the whole reason why she's questioning you. That's gaslighting. Well, she doesn't have a wali, and Allah forbid you the imam of your masjid. Allah forbid, the imam placed you as a wali over other women. God forbid, right? Because now you're even more justified. Because I'm her wali. Yeah, but the things that you're talking to her about is not wali stuff. And the thing about it is that if you are wali over a sister, if you are wakil over a sister, you should not be communicating with her by yourself. Why do we constantly as men keep putting ourselves in these precarious situations? Why? Knowing that shaitan is the third party. You think because you are wali or because you are wakil that shaitan is still not going to be your third party? Oh, let me get this right, because you are so Salafi and you are so on it and you are so on the haq that those things don't happen to people like you. They only happen to deviants and people who have a problem with, this sheikh and that sheikh or whatever. Those are the only type of people who have those type of problems. You gotta be kidding me, man. You have got to be kidding me. Those are not Salafi problems, right? No, they actually are Salafi problems. Because any normal man knows that if she is not my family member, I'm not your wali. Go to the masjid and let the imam do his job. That's not my job. That's not my job. That's beyond my pay grade. I'm good on that. So, she doesn't have a wali. I'm her wali. Or, I'm, just communicating with her because we can't find a wali. So then your wife says, well, it's haram for you to be communicating with her like that. And I'm not going to go into a marriage with you and a woman who you've already developed a relationship with this person. You ain't going about it the right way. Oh, so you trying to stop me from practicing my right? This is my right. You need to fear Allah. See how we flipped it on her? Right then and there, you flipped it. You made this woman believe that even opening her mouth to say something to you about what you were doing that was haram, you made her second question whether or not she should have even opened her mouth. That is gaslighting. You start making the woman question. She walk away thinking, well, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Well, maybe he's right. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't even open my mouth. See, I need to go back and learn more about Islam. Let me go send Imam Shadeed Muhammad an email to see if, he can give me some explanation on this situation. Because there's a part of her that knows that that's wrong, but she doesn't have, the technical knowledge of the religion to corner you and make you own your shit. You understand? Excuse my French. This is ridiculous. It's absurd. She doesn't have the technical knowledge of the religion to corner you and make you own your stuff. So we hide behind ayats and hadith and what this sheikh said. Well, the sheikh said, technically, sisters, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something right now. Any brother that tells you this sheikh said or that sheikh said, he's playing games with you. He's playing games with you because he knows that you will never be able to get to the bottom of whether or not the sheikh actually said that unless it's recorded and translated in English. He knows when he tells you, well, the sheikh was here just last week and he said in this particular lecture. If he didn't say it in English or if he said it in Arabic and it was translated, and you will never be able to find exactly where he said that. If you ask your husband, where's the dalil? Where can I find that? He'll never bring it to you. These are gaslighting techniques that Muslim men use in their relationships. He knows that you're never going to go any further. When he says the sheikh said it, he's a lie. I'm telling you. Facts all day long. Ain't no sheikh say that. The sheikh did not say that. Until you can bring me concrete proof that this sheikh, what sheikh said it. I don't know the sheikh name. All right, well then you can't use it. That's not dalil. You can't tell me what the sheikh's name was. Sheikh Ibn Fulan, Sheikh Fawzan. He gonna pick any one of the top names that are out there. He don't even know if Sheikh Salih Fawzan was standing in front of you right now and you wouldn't know who the hell he was. Sheikh Salih Fawzan said it, or Sheikh Fulan said it. If that sheikh, you showed him a picture, you said, listen, honey, who is this right here? I don't know. That's one of the mashaykh. What's his name? Do you know who he is? No, I don't know who he is. That is Sheikh Salih Fawzan. He wouldn't even know what Sheikh Salih Fawzan looked like. On top of, the sheikh said this. Where did he say it? Can you give me, quotations? This phrase, this statement in quotations that he actually said it like that. And then once you can hand me that, then I need to understand the context in which he said it, because context is what gives words meaning. Words have no meaning without context. You don't get to supply the context. See, that's what we do. Here again, the gaslighting. So we'll take a clip and we'll say, Shadeed Muhammad said here, right here on this 2-second clip, he said right here. And they provide you with the context. Meanwhile, it was a whole lecture, a whole hour-long lecture. You understand what I'm saying? But we don't take the time out to go listen to the hour-long lecture because we love falsehood. We love when people lie to us. We'll believe a lie quicker than we believe the truth. We love when we've become so accustomed to people lying to us. When the ultimate liar, the Dajjal, comes, many of us will follow him. We follow any Bakr Zayd, we follow any Muslim that comes along that tells us the absolute opposite of Islam, and we follow. Facts all day long. I kid you not. Wallah al-Azim. Any Muhammad, Abdullah, Fulan, come along, quote a little bit of Arabic, say the Sheikh said, we follow him, and he will follow him to the end of the earth. And the whole while, he's leading you along, giving you crumbs of falsehood. Crumbs of falsehood. Wrapped in, abstract truth. Crumbs of falsehood wrapped in abstract truth. And we'll pick it up, one crumb, and we'll follow this individual all the way to the end. Right now. Gaslighting. Be mindful, sisters, when a brother says to you, the Sheikh said this, or they may even use your local imam or da'i or student of knowledge. Or imam such and such said this, or the student of knowledge such and such said this. Man, come on, man. Miss me with that. No, he didn't. He ain't say that. Brother, stop lying. Stop gaslighting these sisters, man. It's not necessary. There's somebody for everybody. There's a woman out there that you say jump, she'll say how high. There are women out there that are like that. That's how they built. Go after those type of women. But the woman who is trying to assert her independence, her, intellectual independence, stop making this woman question her own intellect. Stop making this woman question her own intellect simply because you're trying to hide behind a religion for your own personal agenda. Stop getting married. Don't get married. Play the field. Don't get married. How you get married and you still communicating with women in their DMs and stop. Don't get married. Do you? But you don't bring somebody into your life, man, and do that to them, man. As I said before, some of us were on our way to Jannah until we got married. Facts. Some of us will end up going to hell simply because we got married and we abused the institution of marriage. Facts all day long. By yourself, you was fine. You might have committed fornication. You might have did some things that were haram and you made tawbah and your tawbah was sincere and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala could have forgave you. But when you in a relationship with another human being, sharing this most intimate space, and you are abusing this person mentally, psychologically, physically, there is no excuse for that, man. There is no tawbah for that, man, because you've damaged the person to such a degree that even after you cut the person loose and divorce them and move on, they are traumatized. Traumatized, taking the trauma and the pain that you gave them on into another relationship, and they traumatize somebody else, and then that person traumatizes somebody else, all from the pain that you gave them. The pain that you gave them. And it's a cycle. It's a cycle. It's almost like innovation, right? Ibn Abbas, he said the innovator will not be forgiven. That doesn't mean that an innovator cannot make tawbah, but his innovation spreads throughout the world, that even though he makes tawbah for himself, he repents for himself, he cannot stop the cycle of innovation of bid'ah that spread from his hands. You understand? When you are the cause of somebody else's pain, you are responsible for creating it, and you're responsible for every other person that is affected by it. You understand? This is the religion of Islam. There is no changing that. When you are the cause of somebody's pain, you are not just responsible for that pain, but you are also responsible for how that pain transfers from one person to the next, how that pain circulates amongst other people. You were the initial creator of that pain, and you are responsible for it. You want dalil? For all you dalil seekers, I'll give you dalil. The Prophet ﷺ said, "Man sanna fil Islam sunnatan or sunnatan sayyi'ah, falahu wizruha wa wizru man amila biha, wa la yanqusu min awzarihim shay'a." The Prophet ﷺ said, whoever starts a bad practice in my religion, then he will have the sin of starting it and the sin of everyone else who practices it without anything being subtracted from his initial sin. Understand? That's your dalil. You never be able to say Shadeed Muhammad says something without giving you dalil. Any quote that anybody has ever said, oh, Shadeed said this. Play it past the minute clip that you just took out of the whole hour and 20-minute lecture. Play the clip right after it. The dalil is there. Some of us just don't, we don't care to look for dalil. We have a cognitive bias. I don't like you anyway. So when somebody say, oh, he said this, he said, oh yeah, whatever. I don't like him anyway. Yeah, he probably said it. That's okay, because every time my name is brought up in one of your conversations, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just adding that to my hasanat. As a matter of fact, I actually might go to Jannah. I pray, Allahumma, I might go to Jannah because of you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I can live with that. You know what I mean? I'm good. I can live with that. But the fact of the matter is that, brothers, we have to stop gaslighting these sisters. And then the ultimate gaslight is when the sister says, well, I'm not going into, polygyny with you and this sister. I'm not doing that. So, oh, you got a problem with Allah and his messenger? You got a problem with this deen? You got a problem with Allah and his messenger? Your problem is not, your problem is not with me. Your problem is with polygyny. So therefore, your problem is with Allah and his messenger. Ultimate gaslight. That is the ultimate of gaslighting. The sister doesn't have a problem with Allah and his messenger. The sister converted to Islam. She left kufr for Islam. That is not a sign to me that a woman has a problem with Allah and his messenger. Understand? How dare you? How dare you deflect and put off on this sister, right? Put off on this sister that she doesn't fear Allah, or that she has a problem with Allah and his messenger. She got a problem with the deen of Islam because she's trying to correct you on something that you are doing wrong, and then you push it back on her by making her question whether she even loves Allah and his messenger. What type of shaitan are you to do something like that to somebody? And then have the woman walking away thinking, well, maybe I do, right? And then to have the woman eventually end up leaving Islam. Meanwhile, you going, talking to women, communicating with women, engaging in behaviors that are haram. And you tell the woman she got a problem with Allah and his messenger, making the woman question the essence of her existence in this religion. What type of shaitan are you to do something like that to somebody? And then the woman is walking away questioning herself, well, maybe I do have a problem with Allah and his messenger. Maybe the religion of Islam is not for me. Maybe I should just leave Islam because I'm having such a horrible experience and he keeps putting it off on me like I don't like Islam. I don't love Islam because I won't let him just do what he wants to do. Well, if me, letting him do what he want to do is an indication that I don't love Islam, then perhaps I don't love Islam and I'm out. I didn't leave Christianity, leave the lifestyle that I left, sacrifice all of the friends and family members and everything that I sacrificed to come to Islam, and have someone put on me, have me question whether I even love Allah and his messenger. Subhanallah al-Azim. Shaitan. We have some shayateen. Sisters, if you have ever been confronted with this, let me first and foremost say, I'm sorry that you had that experience. I really am. I know some of you are listening now. Some of you are going to listen later and say, Wallahi, that is my situation. let me say to you that I am sorry that you are having this experience or have had this experience. That is not Islam. That is not the Muslim man that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes to us in the Quran, and that was depicted to us in the practices of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not. It's not. And don't ever question, don't ever have somebody force you to question whether or not you love Allah, love His Messenger, or love Islam. If anything, we should be affirming our love for Allah and His Messenger, based upon all of the stuff that we go through, all of the stuff that we tolerate and deal with in this society, and we do it all still remaining Muslim. That is a fact that we love. That is an indication that we love Allah and His Messenger. Because you don't have to cover. I don't have to wear a beard. I don't have to pray 5 times a day. I could at this very moment in my life say, I don't want to pray anymore, and I'm not praying anymore, and there's nobody that would force me to do it. So the mere fact that I get up in the morning at 4:15 in the morning to pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the mere fact that that a woman decides to cover her body and cover her hair and come outside, that is an indication that you love Allah and His Messenger. And all of our love for Allah and His Messenger are on different levels. But there is some love there. Don't ever let an individual cause you to question that. When the man was drinking in front of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and I'll end with this. Hadith is in Sahih al-Bukhari. Man was drinking in front of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And one of the Sahaba said, may Allah curse you. How many times are you going to come in front of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam like this? And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, La tal'anuhu, don't curse him. He said, فَإِنِّي لَا أَعْلَمْ إِلَّا أَنَّهُ يُحِبُّ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ. He said, because the only thing I know about him is that he loves Allah and His Messenger. He affirmed that. Meanwhile, we are discrediting people. Oh, he doesn't love Allah. Oh, she doesn't love Allah. Oh, you got a problem with Islam. You don't love Islam. Because I won't let you do what you want to do. I won't just sit back and let you do you. I won't sit back and be your doormat. I don't love Allah and His Messenger. Then you can run with that. You can run with that. Because we got some horrible interpretations in Islam. Horrible. But that's the way some people, that's the way that they approach the religion. I'm saying to you, sister, don't let anybody force you to question your loyalty to Islam. You left whatever lifestyle you left to convert to Islam. For those of you who've converted, and for those of you who were born and raised Muslim, your parents did not invest in you all that they invested in you for you to go into a relationship later on in your life and question whether or not you love it. Like, how could you say I got a problem with Allah and His Messenger? Negro, I was born and raised Muslim, practicing Islam. What do you mean I got a problem with Allah and His Messenger? I got a problem with Islam. Since when did I have a problem with Islam? Since I married you and I won't let you do what you want to do? Now I got a problem with Islam. When I first married you, did I have a problem with Islam then? Right? When I first married you, did I have a problem with Islam then? No, I got a problem with Islam. I got a problem with Allah and His Messenger when I don't want to let you do what you want to do. Got you. Brothers and sisters, man, we need to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in these relationships, man. Like I said, as I stand on that, some of us, man, were on our way to Jannah by ourselves. And we got into these relationships, man, and we started creating cycles of pain and hurt and trauma. And that stuff is going to follow you. You're going to have to answer to that. You're going to have to answer for that Yawm al-Qiyamah. Inshallah ta'ala, I'll open up for, questions and answers bi'idhnillah. Wa sallallahu ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallama tasliman kathira. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.